Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren.
Ladies and gentlemen, a cordial welcome to all of you on behalf of the Wienerberger team, my colleague Willy van Riet and myself. A cordial welcome to our press conference. After a heat wave, the temperatures have come down, but the figures correspond to warm weather rather than cold weather, because they're very good indeed. Let me briefly summarize the first 6 months of 2015. We have revenues of almost 1.5 billion euros, plus 9% compared with the previous year. Operating EBITDA has increased by 34% to just over 180 million euro. A very positive development in all our segments, in all our regions. And in difficult times, not all markets have taken a positive development in infrastructure and residential construction. Nevertheless, we've been able to increase our prices in all our regions, and that has offset the cost increases, the inflationary cost increases, and even exceeded the cost increases in certain areas. The foreign currency effect has also been positive. Energy prices were slightly lower than last year, so that has had a favorable impact on our result. Despite the fact that we had a more normal winter this year, the first quarter, therefore, as far as revenues and volumes are concerned, was worse than the first quarter of 2014 because it was colder. Gross cash flow up by 54% to almost 154 million euros, which is a strong signal again as regards gross cash flow. Our EBITDA target, considering this very strong performance in the first 6 months, will be increased to 375 million euro, but there will also be one-off effects contained therein through real estate transactions. Let us take a brief look at the individual segments or business units of Wienerberger. Clay Building Materials Europe benefited a great deal from price increases and an improving environment in the United Kingdom and the Netherlands. Moreover, measures that have been taken in recent years to optimize our production facilities, improvements regarding energy consumption, have also had a beneficial effect. Volumes declined slightly in this segment, but this has been offset through optimization measures. As regards pipes and pavers, that is Pipelife, Steinzeug and Semmelrock, Pipelife performed very well in Northern Europe, Norway, Sweden and Finland. In particular, we've been gaining market shares there, and international project business was very good as well. As you know, we supply special pipes, fiber reinforced pipes and long length and large diameter pipes for energy projects. This is a high-margin business which made a positive contribution to our results. As regards ceramic pipes produced by Steinzeug Keramo, stable results, although the German market was declining slightly. Semmelrock was able to slightly increase its results despite shrinking markets. A a significant revenue increase in North America, although the new residential market did not increase as much as had been expected. We had originally expected a 9% increase, but it was only 5%. Average prices in North America increased slightly, and we have leaner cost structures thanks to optimization measures, which resulted in a significant increase of our result. A one-off real estate transaction had an impact, a positive impact of 12.5 million. So revenues 1.5 billion, EBITDA 181 million, a strong increase, and profit after tax, 21 million for the first half of the year, and the gross cash flow, 154 million. And with this, I hand over to my colleague, Willy van Riet. I too would like to welcome you on this rather Belgian summer day. For Belgium, it would be good weather, depending on how you look at it. So we report an organic revenue and earnings increase in all divisions. This started in the first quarter. The second quarter was very good as well. Revenue increased by 13% in the second quarter. Operating EBITDA continued to increase. It's mainly due to the strong markets of the UK and the Netherlands, which accounted for revenue increases. And we have a contribution to our result from the Tondach Group, which we acquired in 2014. This is a consolidation effect of 7.7 million. The pipes and pavers business continued to grow, particularly in the Nordic markets. In North America, a stable volume development and an increase in average prices. We also succeeded in selling an industrial real estate, which generated income in the amount of 12.5 million. A brief overview of the income statement. Revenues up by 9%, EBITDA plus 34%. Our EBITDA margin increased from 10 to 12%. Depreciation almost the same as last year. 10.5 impairment charges to assets. So we made an additional provision for Russia, an impairment both in the brick sector and the pipe sector, because the market is very challenging in Russia. The financial result, the same as in 2014. And we have a profit after tax of 39 million compared with 4.5 million the year before. And we're paying tax in those countries where we are profitable, that is the Nordic countries, the Benelux countries, and the UK. These are countries with a relatively high tax rate. We pay 18 million in terms of income taxes, but the profit after tax is still 21 million for the first half of the year. Revenue development plus 9%, driven by stable volume development in the first 6 months, but do not forget, in a comparison with 2014, we had an extremely strong first quarter in 2014. And volumes have remained more or less the same. Prices, however, increased by 2%. This is most satisfactory, particularly in a low inflation environment. It's difficult to increase prices, so we succeeded very well there. We also have positive FX effects, plus 2%. a positive effect on both revenues and EBITDA, and we have a consolidation effect, Tondach Kleinstetten, plus 5% contribution to revenue growth. What's the development of our operating result? 25 million due to price increases. But not only price increases, but also a product mix with more high-margin products or high-price products, like the special pipes manufactured by Pipelife. Volume development plus 0.8, a positive effect from foreign currency. We have the positive impact of the dollar and the British pound, and to a certain extent the Swiss franc, a negative impact from the ruble devaluation, and very weak Nordic currencies, the Norwegian and the Swedish crown, very weak. But the United States and the UK were the regions where our business was growing most strongly. Sale of real estate, plus 12.6 million over the previous year. You know, we always sell real estate. It's our program and our intention to sell non-core real estate. And we succeeded in doing a big deal in the first half of the year. We will be making additional deals during the rest of the year. Consolidation effect of Tondach Kleinstetten, first and second quarter together, plus 5.6 million. And then total cost, that is total inflation, cost us 4 million, so minus 4 million in terms of EBITDA. But altogether, a 34% increase in EBITDA. Broken down by segment, you can see that all segments were doing better. Clay Building Materials Europe, plus 16%. Contribution to results, plus 24%. Pipes and Pavers Europe. In North America, the result has doubled. We have a 21 million contribution from North America, which includes the 12.5 million real estate transaction. But even without that, it's much better. And holding and others costs have gone down. Broken down by product, pipes, both plastic pipes and ceramic pipes account for the biggest contribution, but as you can see, all other products are also making positive contributions to our result. This is a very good message and a good basis for the future. Cash flow development. For a CFO, it's always great to speak about positive cash flow, particularly if it's gross cash flow. This is self-generated own cash flow. 50 million more cash flow compared with last year. Much of that cash flow is in working capital. So the increase in revenues during the first half of the year means that people have not all paid their bills yet. They're going to pay in the second half of the year. That leads to an increase in working capital, and we also had to increase our stock because then you can only sell what you have on stock. So we are producing more because we are preparing for the second half of the year. So stock is building up, usually until June, and during the second half of the year, stocks are being depleted. Investments or capex, normal capex, at the same level as last year. Divestments and other, more or less the same. The net cash flow is due to the fact that working capital has gone up. the free cash flow is because working capital has gone up. Growth CapEx, not much, 5.2 million, and after dividend and hybrid coupon, we have 165 million minus net cash flow, but that's going to turn around because during the second half of the year. Wienerberger has a strong balance sheet, very low net debt. Again, it's a seasonal business. You have to bear that in mind. You have to have products on stock to be ready for sales, and an equity ratio of 52% compared with 2014 is very good. During the second half of 2014, we acquired Tondach Kleinstetten, which cost us 110 million. If we were to add to that, you can see that we've been doing a great deal in order to reduce our net debt.
Let's take a look at the individual segments. Clay building materials in Europe. Here we distinguish between Western and Eastern Europe. Here you can see that we had an 11% growth in volumes. EBITDA rose by 16% and operating EBIT by 34%. Very satisfactory. As I mentioned by way of introduction, the picture was diversified. We have a satisfactory solution in the United Kingdom. Prior to elections in the United Kingdom, there was a slight decrease in new residential construction because there was uncertainty as to the next government. But then, after elections, after a clear decision, we find a positive environment again in the United Kingdom. And renovation and new construction has picked up. I mentioned that the Dutch market is showing a positive trend. This is a very positive development. Renovation is also picking up in the Netherlands. Belgium, as mentioned, is a very important market for Wienerberger, and it is fairly stable. So the core regions, UK, the Netherlands, Belgium, contribute greatly to this segment. Let me move on to France. In France, there was a decrease of about 7% in new residential construction. Downward trends, again, from a fairly low level. We cannot expect a turnaround in the course of this year. But I hope that as we move towards presidential elections in France in 2016, there will probably be a slight pickup in the construction sector. The German-speaking countries, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, have been disappointing. In all three countries, there was a decrease of new residential construction, particularly 1- and 2-family homes, which is our core segment, but also a downward trend in renovation activities. The renovation segment, of course, is important for roof tiles. However, in Eastern Europe, Poland, for instance, there was a favorable development both in renovation and new construction. Volumes increased. The Czech Republic recovered from a low level. Hungary, after 5 years of decline, we see again growth upon which we can build our activities. And the same holds true for Romania. Of course, a number of political issues from recent years are being solved, and this means an impetus for renovation and new construction. In southeastern Europe, Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia and Slovenia, we have a downward trend, and this will probably continue for a while. As Willy van Riet mentioned, Russia, of course, after a fairly long period of sanctions, has been suffering. There's little money available for renovation and residential construction, so there has been a standstill, more or less, or a downward trend in a new residential construction. We also sell pipes in Russia, and here we also find that the state is investing less and less. So we probably will be facing a longer period of decline. No short-term changes can be expected. Another important segment, pipes and pavers. Here again, growth, 4% in external revenues, 24% operating EBITDA. Willy van Riet mentioned international projects, saying that margins are higher and therefore more profitable. And this is particularly true for the Norwegian and Dutch plants. They have contributed greatly to the results. Pipelife is working or is active in an increasing and growing market in Northern Europe. We can provide complete solutions and have been able to gain market shares. And our performance in Central and Eastern Europe, Poland and Hungary and Turkey, has also improved. Austria, again, a slightly less positive picture. In Austria, we find that communities and lender are less willing to invest in infrastructure. So this has also meant a decline for Pipelife. Ceramic pipes, here we focus on Germany in particular. Again, there was some reticence in the investment policy of communities, but there are signs of improvement on the market. And our export business to the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, is also picking up. We are selling increasing numbers of pipes there. So altogether, Semmelrock did very well and could improve its results. North America. Here, I would like to point out that the development is still positive. However, as a result of the strong dollar, the U.S. economy is suffering, and this is also reflected in the construction sector. Growth has been less than we originally expected. We expected 9%, but probably it's going to be 5%. What is positive is that average prices for facing bricks have slightly increased for the first time. This is a positive signal, but we also focused on the cost side and could achieve significant improvements. I mentioned the 12.5 million from the sale of a piece of real estate. What is important is our Canadian business. We are strongly positioned in Toronto. The development has been positive, and the economy has been picking up. A few words about the outlook for the remainder of 2015. This is our assessment of the market for the remainder of 2015. Here you have the figures, 5% plus in the relevant markets in the United States. So this is our assumption at the moment, and we can confirm this after the summer months. As already mentioned, the picture in Europe is highly diversified. We have growth from low levels in Eastern Europe, which, however, is positive. The Eastern European economy in the construction sector is getting more dynamic. Things are very good in the United Kingdom and also the Netherlands. The German-speaking countries, were a disappointment. Austria and Germany are lagging behind. And then we have the Mediterranean countries. They are trying to come to grips with the situation. We still have a decline in France and also in Italy. So, as we can see, developments in Europe are varied, and there are what I would call parallel words or scenarios in the construction sector. The roof tile sector, of course, is also a very important segment for us. Here we find that there are no longer subsidies for thermal renovation or improvement. Incentive programs have been stopped. Energy prices have gone down, and therefore there is less motivation to invest in thermal renovation projects. But we can assume that there will be a continued potential in this sector, and as soon as energy prices go up, we will see an upward trend again. Clay building materials, considering the different markets, we can say that the trend that we witnessed in the first half of the year will probably continue in the second half of the year. Positive trend from the United Kingdom to Poland, weak situation in Russia, and also in Germany, Austria and Switzerland. We will focus on cost reduction, on improving our product range. We mentioned repeatedly that we are focusing on high-value products, and this should help us increase prices and margins. So we will have a significant revenue and earnings increase in the second half of the year. Pipes and pavers, Europe, again, higher volumes in the Nordic core markets and also in Eastern Europe. Pipe life, plastic pipes, there was a certain bottleneck regarding the availability of raw material, granulate, but we could supply all customers with our product as a result of our procurement strategy. Prices rose significantly in some regions, but we could keep that under control. So this is a clear sign that even in difficult times when there are bottlenecks on the supply side, we have a successful price management, and contribution from this segment will be satisfactory in the second half of the year. Also, ceramic pipes, again, I've already mentioned that the contribution from this segment will increase, and pavers, here we will focus on premium products. North America, as already mentioned, there will be an increase in earnings. The positive trend will continue in the second half of the year, albeit on a slightly lower level. And there have also been one-off contributions as a result of the sale of real estate. This takes me to the outlook. At the beginning of this year, we said that we would have or achieve an operating group EBITDA in the amount of 350 million. Now, after the first 6 months, we feel confident on the basis of our activities in the first half of the year that we can increase the outlook to 375 million. This includes 25 million of one-off contribution as a result of real estate sale. You can sell real estate only once. But we will continue to sell off real estate in the future. And we will see positive contributions in the second half of the year. So the operating result, the operating EBITDA, will reach 375 million. Price increases about 2% on the average, cost inflation about 1%, and CapEx, including a small amount of growth CapEx, which we're doing in order to have sufficient capacities in the pipe segment, will amount to about 150 million euros. So Wienerberger, we hope, will reach a positive result for 2015. Thank you very much for your attention. My colleague and I myself are willing to answer questions.
We would need a microphone for the question. A question is being asked, but unfortunately we can't hear. Why haven't developments in the United States continued as originally expected? Well, when you look at this map, our core market is single-family homes and two-family homes. That's the relevant market for us. And bricks are being used there. Clay blocks, facing bricks, and clay roof tiles. The Statistical Office is reporting the total number of dwellings built, and this is mainly multi-story buildings. Far fewer bricks are being used. The main building material is concrete, prefab concrete construction. That's a point which for us is not satisfactory.
Bitte. Gleich anschließend.
A follow-up question. The decline in Austria in single-family homes and two-family homes, is that mainly due to financing constraints, or is it that Austrians just don't have enough money to build new homes? You are aiming at 375 million EBITDA. Would you also make a forecast for your net profit? And the third question, you said you were able to increase prices. Were you simply increasing your list prices, or what did you do? Now, let me try and answer your three questions. The pricing policy is a local one because we operate in regional markets. It's not countries, but regions. We operate in regions are our markets. And when we talk about a price increase of 2% on average across the group, that means that in some markets prices were not increased at all. In others, they were increased more strongly. So this is really a local thing. Local markets matter in this respect. And the price increases are due, on the one hand, to the product mix with more premium products, high-value products. But again, it's the regional environment that matters when it comes to increasing prices or not. Then you asked about the Austrian market, the Austrian environment. Of course, if single-family homes are to be built, you need a certain amount of financial strength, which is not as good as it was in the past. Land has to be available at an affordable price. That plays an important role. And then there is another trend, not only in Germany, but also in Austria. Dwellings are being built in urban areas. Dwellings are smaller than they used to be, and that means less product used per dwelling. And as regards the net result, our net profit, Well, if we have no extraordinary expenditure, we will succeed in generating a net profit. But there may always be impairments. We still have goodwill in certain regions, and it depends on the development of individual markets. On the whole, Wienerberger is doing very well, but we had to book impairments in Russia during the first half of the year, and such things might happen also during the second half. But this is merely an impairment in our accounts. It doesn't cost us any money, but I would think that developments will continue along the same lines as in the first half. But let's wait until the second half of the year is over, and then we know what's going to be the result. A question in the first row. Thank you. Just for clarification, you said that your price policy is a local policy. That means in a market that is growing, you tend to increase prices. In shrinking markets, would you reduce your prices? Would you lower them? Well, that's not necessarily a conclusion to be drawn. Well, it's not always true that you can increase prices in a growing market, because there may be a competitive situation that doesn't allow you to do that. So it's really an interaction of product policy, market positioning, and local competition. But there are markets, when you look at this map, you will be surprised to see that even in a difficult market like France, we were able to increase our prices slightly because we have improved our product portfolio. But even in a more stable market, you may be forced to keep your prices stable because of the competition. And on a product-specific basis, might you sell clay blocks at a lower price and clay roof tiles at a higher price? Well, that really depends on the product. It's not only a question of the individual categories like wall, facade, pipes and pavers. It also differs from segment to segment. In the pipe segment, it's not just pipes. There are accessories and other things you're selling at the same time, and that has an impact on your pricing policy. You mentioned real estate a great deal, and if I remember correctly, you said you still have a lot of real estate to sell, non-core real estate. How much is that? How much would you expect in terms of revenue? You said that unfortunately you can only sell a piece of land once. Does that mean that there is high demand? Well, we said that by the end of 2016, we want to generate 100 million from our non-core real estate sale program. We intend to sell non-core assets. Now, we are in mid-2015. We have already generated revenues in the amount of 55 million, so there is a lot more to come. We launched the program in 2012, so negotiations, obtaining permits, all that takes time. We are about to close certain projects, or we are in a phase where we venture to say that this is probably going to succeed, but we don't want to anticipate anything because rezoning still will have to take place. But we keep our feelers out everywhere. We have, particularly in clay block production, we have a lot of real estate. We've done a lot of restructuring. We closed down plants between 2009 and 2012. So there is real estate. And whenever we can see that we can sell real estate at a reasonable price, we do so. We don't sell out. And if it's not going to happen in 2016, it's going to happen in 2017. We're not giving away anything. It depends, really. There is agricultural land. Of course, if we had real estate near urban areas, it would be much easier, but our real estate is not near urban areas, and some are easier to develop than others. I have a number of questions. We haven't heard much about capital investment. Are you planning to do anything in terms of capital expenditure? Are you planning an acquisition or streamlining, increasing efficiency in production? That is my first question. Second question, do you intend to issue a bond, perhaps? You redeemed a 5-year bond on time. It had neither a positive nor a negative impact on your balance sheet. Are you considering raising money in the capital market, even if the interest, as long as the interest level is as low as it is? No, we're not considering this possibility for the time being, but we have enough undrawn bank lines, and the bank lines are much cheaper for us than a bond issue. A bond issue makes you inflexible for a certain period of time. Bank lines are much more flexible, so we'd rather tend to use undrawn bank lines, which will generate less of a negative carry. We do have a lot of cash on our balance sheet, and we make use of that. In August, we bought back a 200 million bond, and we did that from our own cash and our bank lines. We are going to keep an eye on the situation. Of course, you're still paying a relatively high rate of interest on a bond. It's still positive. I'm dreaming of negative interest rates, not you probably, but for me it's permitted. And as long as we're not going there, we're not going to do it, and we don't need it for the time being. As regards your first question regarding capital expenditure, I'd like to give you a two-part answer. First, there is capital expenditure for our current business. We were very prudent in recent years. In the past, Wienerberger used to invest a lot of money, so we tried to use our common sense, and we kept developing our business units through technological investments, and we took a selective site-based approach. The guidance is the original guidance was 140 million. We've increased that to 150 million. That comprises maintenance capex, which you need for your current business, and it comprises a process of technological development, which is a very intensive one. We're reducing energy consumption in production. We want to use improved raw materials. We invest in our plant and equipment, and we want to further improve our products through product development. All that is included in the 150 million, which do contain minor growth investments at the individual locations, be it in the United States or in Europe in the pipe segment. Smaller investments will be made because we want to step up our activities in the new markets, and we want to have the necessary capacities and plant and equipment there. These are the investments we are making because we are earning more than we did last year, but we are still not earning enough, far from it, and for that we need markets, but we have to be careful when it comes to spending money. That is a very essential topic for us. And this leads me on to your second question. You asked about any acquisitions on our radar screen. Do we want to grow? Well, in recent years, we have repositioned ourselves. We have pursued a growth policy, but a reasonable one. We always kept our balance sheet in mind, our debt structure. We have brought our net debt down considerably. We have strong cash flows, but we're not going to make acquisitions that are not well thought through. Acquisitions have to have a payback component. They have to be value building and value accretive. If we want to reach our CFROI targets, which are high, we're far from 11.5% CFROI, but all the investments we've made in recent years, like Tondach, Pipelife, Keramo, Steinzeig, we're well above the 11.5%, and that is important for Wienerberger. The criteria which we are imposing upon ourselves are very demanding ones, and we're highly disciplined. It depends on whether or not occasions or opportunities arise. It's not absolutely necessary for us. In the construction industry, a lot is happening. In the cement industry, a battlefield has been opened up with mega mergers. And that's going to have an impact in the coming 5 years or so, because there are many businesses in the market that are not profitable enough and that have not gone the restructuring process which we have gone through.
Turnaround.
Well, the turnaround is not yet sustainable. I wouldn't say so. If you look back at 2014 and now look at 2015, there's a clear-cut tendency. So restructuring is a thing of the past. We've achieved growth since 2013 and 2014. And it's also obvious that profitability has been higher in the pipe segment than in the brick sector. Well, the return on capital is a bit higher in this segment, but we've also seen growth in the brick segment. When you look at the United Kingdom or the Netherlands, for instance, when markets recover, there will be high profitability. And will profitability then be higher in the brick segment if things go well? Yes. Can you give us a figure? Margins are higher. Well, margins for roof tiles are about 20-25%. For clay blocks, about 20%, and facing bricks, about 18%. For pipes, margins are about 12%. Are there any further questions? A follow-up question. Regarding investments, you mentioned the companies that you purchased. You didn't acquire them because they were available on the market or they were cheap. You actually wanted to add to your portfolio, of course, or modernize. I know you won't mention any names, but what direction could you think of in order to improve your import portfolio and open up new market opportunities? Well, when it comes to our strategy, it's clear that Wienerberger is focusing on an overall solution, roofs, facade, walls. And we focus on customers' requirements and expectations. So these are things that we have to consider further. We have dealt with ceramic and clay products for almost 2 centuries, but now we are also selling new products, ceramic products filled in bricks, insulation, etc. When it comes to pipes, we focus not only on water pipes, sewage pipes, we also consider electricity, energy in the widest sense of the word. Here we will see further growth, not only through takeovers, but also by way of further developments. And this is one of the strengths of our company. We produce new products, and we will, of course, also meet the challenges of modernization. Wienerberger today is a company that is not only a production company, a manufacturing company. We also need to be present on the building sites. We have to consider logistics. We're not going to become let's say, a different company, but we are more open-minded than we were, let's say, 10 years ago. And therefore, as you mentioned, we are trying to acquire companies that will sort of round off and strengthen our portfolio. And all our measures will be future-oriented and well-considered. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the summer.